keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it. So explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it. No scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool. Hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones. Bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for
Happy Festivus, everyone.
Woo!
I've got a lot of problems with you people, and you're all going to hear about it tonight.
All right.
But first, let me welcome everybody to the show, Anti-Media Radio. Tuesday night edition. This is your host, S.M. Gibson. As always, I am joined in studio with my co-host,
Dedric Young, how you doing?
and we are also joined in the studio tonight with our producer, Mr.
Keeping it real, Shannon Madden, represent, bitches.
So, speaking of Festivus, we've got an article up on a little fun article on antimedia.org today, and just kind of listed all my grievances with everything over the past year, and I thought I'd read it out to everybody, and anybody that wants to chime in with their opinion on this, go right ahead.
We want to hear what you got to say then.
Okay, but you know what? I'll start at the top. I'm sick of how all lives are not viewed as equal in this country. Like, that infuriates me. I'm sick of people making excuses for the actions of governments all over the world, no matter what it is. I'm sick of being lied to by the media. I hate being spied on by the government. I hate politicians saying they have our best interest in mind but don't. I'm sick of going to the airport and being touched inappropriately. I'm sick of the media distracting people by focusing on specific narratives while Washington quietly steals what little freedoms we have left.
True that.
I'm tired of my tax dollars being spent overseas, and more importantly, being sent overseas to bomb people. I'm tired of the two-party system, well, which it's really the one-party system.
You're right.
I'm tired of people killing people altogether, especially the fact that it's justified. People justify it, whether it's overseas or it's here. I'm disgusted at anyone who thinks that they're above the law because you have a certain profession or a certain amount of money that, you can just get away with whatever you want. I hate how people like Al Sharpton and Sean Hannity use tragedies to line their pockets with money. I'm sick of people believing that Edward Snowden is anything but a hero. Like, he blew the whistle and told everybody what was really going on. And, he's stuck over in Russia and he's not even allowed to come over here.
Can we stop right here at that for a minute? Because, that takes the biggest balls ever to be able to do something like that. The man had to pretty much abandon his whole life.
Right, he did.
His whole life. That's what sacrifice it really is all about.
Yeah, it's funny that everybody says that, you so much of America, and looking back on the the historic narrative of this country and how it was founded, and these group of men like rebelled against everything, which is basically what Snowden did. They look at those men like patriots, and they look at Snowden like
is he a patriot or a traitor?
He's a patriot.
I'm saying that's the question.
No, there's no question. It's just he's a patriot. If you disagree, you're wrong.
Yeah, but that was the debate that they had out.
Well, of course. Well, I can understand why certain, John McCain said he wanted to go bomb Hong Kong because that's where he was. Yeah, I mean, these people are lunatics.
Well, so he's going to go ahead and put and we're talking about John McCain for a moment, and when is it never fun to talk about John McCain in a negative light?
Is there a way of talking about him in a positive light?
I've been struggling for years, man. He really is. He is Bush 2.0.
I think he's worse.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But at the same time, though, if you look at the trajectory of John McCain's, political career and before his political career versus G-Dub, I want to say he's actually a little bit more savvy. He really is. He is. Well, he's a fox, man.
Since we're talking about the Bushes, what's the chances on Jed winning?
Man, this is a great sound. Let's start here. Let's start here. Come on.
This is actually the one of the very last point that I have on this list is I'm sick of people talking about Jeb Bush running for president.
4 different people have approached me this week talking about Jeb Bush being an actual legitimate Republican candidate.
That's what they want you to think. Listen, they're going to push it down everybody's throats. It's going to be a Clinton and a Bush running against each other.
That's awesome, man. Come on.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of countries that are willing to take my citizenship if that happens.
I mean, Hillary's just as crooked as any Republican in office right now. Senate.
There is no, like, that's finally at the point where it's like there's no more lesser of evils. You're getting the exact same thing at that point.
You really are, if you get down to it. Now, it's all going to be packaged differently, and if you're not smart enough, and most of the folks that are smart enough are tuned into this broadcast right now, but if you're not smart enough to discern the two, it's going to be the, Ali versus Frazier. I mean,
of pathetic liars.
You got it right, baby.
But it makes me sick. I'm gonna keep running down the list now. I hate that a Nobel Peace Prize winner in Barack Obama is keeping a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, Chelsea Manning, locked up in jail.
Yeah,
over the WikiLeaks, all that stuff that came out. That's pretty hypocritical. I'm tired of justice not being served in this country. Period. Everybody was torn up this week over the 2 cops that were killed. They did not kill Eric Garner, and I think people should have been upset over that. But you know what? Those are human beings, just like Tamir Rice was a human being and Eric Garner was a human being.
All lives matter.
Right. Absolutely. All lives matter. Again, that goes back to your profession shouldn't make you above anybody else. I'm tired of a banking system that is holding the economies of the world hostage.
Hear, hear.
Well, we're working on that.
Well, we are with the cryptocurrencies. I'm sick of the Federal Reserve. That kind of ties into all that.
Yeah, guys, we have a Bitcoin bowl going on, so you got to know it's real.
Yeah, I mean they're sponsoring a bowl now. Who isn't sponsoring a bowl? I think there's 38 bowls.
Well, at the same time, though, that is a legitimate, sign that Bitcoin is actually here and here to stay. I mean, when you're throwing in on the economy, just like all of the other millions of bowls that are, I mean, it's a way to get your name out there. And, look, I'm all for, corporate powers doing exactly what they want to do and this, that, and the other. And I don't know. I mean, I've got my hands laid over the hood and ready to take it up the butt just like anybody else, as long as my team gets in a bowl.
Well, especially when you live in the South, that's really all people are looking forward to. I can't imagine.
Yeah,
Roll Tide, free UAB while we're on it, but whatever.
Yeah, most of the Crimson Tide guys, they hold it on their shoulders a lot. And, we got to congratulate that team also. You know,
We do, but that's going down a completely different road and topic.
I'm sorry, I took this on a dark horse. And
that's a Southern thing, you know.
Yeah, there's way too much going on in the world than to talk about college football. But anyways, few more points, and then we'll wrap this up. But I hate how the government spends more money killing people around the world than feeding people around the world.
You're right.
Absolutely.
I really, really, really dislike Dick Cheney. That could be on everybody's airing of grievances every year. And last, I'm sick of people talking about Jeb Bush running for president.
Excellent.
So, how you feel about him running for president, Esso?
I think
is it possible? You think?
It's absolutely possible.
You think he has a chance to win?
It's just as
anything's
possible as
man.
By running two campaigns
successfully.
Look, here's the deal. The fact that nobody wanted Mitt Romney as the nominee, and the media over and over and over said, well, he's going to get it. It doesn't matter what you think. And everybody was like, literally, we will pick anybody.
Even
Michelle Bachmann was leading it.
Paul was eating every single debate alive.
The only two people...
And also won the first two primaries, the first two early primaries, and then all of a sudden the media started attacking Ron Paul.
Sure. And then, the argument, the kind of conspiracy that he won the Maine primary, he had all the major endorsements in Maine, and votes in certain districts went missing, and of course Romney ended up winning. But people were so not wanting Mitt Romney to get the nomination that we went through. Rick Santorum was leading at one point.
Ooh.
Rick Santorum, Herman Cain, Michelle Bachmann, Newt Gingrich were all leading at different various points, and the entire time. We've got a caller calling in right now, area code 917. Welcome to the Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, S.M. Gibson. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How's it going with you? I'm glad to see Anti-Media has a radio station now.
Absolutely. What would you like to talk about tonight?
I just like to talk about this idea that, the government was there to enforce laws and regulations to, apparently keep us safe. But, obviously that's not what they're doing anymore. Like, obviously they're taking it, several steps further and acting more like, criminals than actual criminals.
But you have to remember, they're the ones that write the laws, so they exempt themselves from all this criminal activity.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the crazy part. That's what I'm saying. I feel like if we say, hey, a lot of people look at me crazy when I'm just like, hey, I think we should just grab all these laws and start over with our with our banking system and all that other stuff. They're like, we can't do that. We can't just start over from scratch just like that. And it's just very frustrating because it's
Well, everybody's told to be terrified, and everybody's scared, and they're too dependent. At least mentally, they're dependent on the government, and they feel like if the government's not there, but who's going to build the roads? That's what you always hear. But the roads. It's like, nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we wouldn't have any. It goes back.
But
to
there's great innovations. There's great stuff that that's being invented every day by people that the government actually has turned down for manufacturing. There's plenty of energy cycling.
Too. Let me go ahead and add that right now. I mean, look at the state of farming in America right now, and we are the breadbasket of the world.
Yeah. Basically, the government just needs to get out of everybody's business because everything that they've touched has, basically become a nightmare. But very much, thank you so much for your call this evening. Anybody else that would like to call in to the radio tonight, you can do so by calling area code 718-717-8296. That's area code 718-717-8296. Now, Dedric, what do you think about what he was saying as far as the corporations and what Shannon touched on as far as the farming industry, the energy industry?
Well, and basically what he was touching on is now that, hey, it's competition. So, they're going to shut it down. We have a lot of technologies that can solve a lot of problems here today that's not, allowed or we can't get patents on, So, I agree with him. So what we do in that situation, we keep moving forward. We keep building this technology, right? We keep sharing the information. That's why open source is so awesome,
Right.
So, I agree with him. Sometimes, they put in regulations to, cut back on the competition from the large corporations that'll be put out of business.
Right.
Think about, Monsanto's.
Right.
Look how they're protected. It's a crying shame that we don't have labor laws in this country.
Oh, absolutely. But that's never going to happen because they've got all the money in the world behind them to keep that from happening.
And at the same time, though, labor laws, just like every other laws, are on a sliding scale. As long as you have the money to influence that law, whether it be in your favor or against your favor, that's kind of where we're at with it. That's the same reason why we don't get all of our bananas from South California or Southern California or South Florida. We have to get them from the Honduras through Chiquita, which has a large, group of lobbying, factions in Washington right now, making sure that the bananas are coming out of there and nowhere else in the world for America.
Well, whatever you're talking about, the lobbyists are running the show. Let's not think for a second, the health care bill that's been a debate for the past 6 years.
Well,
the lobbyists.
And again, let's call it what everybody else is calling it, Obamacare. Well, is that the actual bill that Obama originally, Obama
that bill was
and
written
his
by
handlers originally put
Listen,
on the
that bill, we all know, was written by the healthcare industry because, if it's to help people, you want to drive the cost down. But, supposedly it was to hurt the insurance companies. Well, it doesn't really hurt the insurance company.
How is it going to hurt the insurance
to
company?
say it's now
the insurance
it's a law.
Are a monopoly now.
It's
if
a
you
law.
Don't have health insurance,
you have to buy it.
You're in violation of the law.
Right, absolutely.
Come on, man.
Right, it's going to drive their business up.
Exactly,
and it has.
Just like auto insurance. If you don't have auto insurance, you're in violation of the law. So you have to get auto insurance.
Well, you should have auto insurance.
Of course, you
should have health insurance.
Of course, you should.
But should
should
the government tell you what's best for you?
That's where I'm talking about right there.
What has the government done to make you feel that they have your best interest in mind? And so why do you think they have your best interest in mind? I wish y'all could see the look that
Dedric just gave Scott. It's awesome. It's awesome.
I pay my insurance. Insurance rates went up. Premiums went up. Still got to pay, but hey, I went to the doctor like.
You still have to.
A lot of people made a lot of money in the process.
You better.
You're absolutely right.
Well, deal's always been cut on the table.
Absolutely.
But hey, we should provide, affordable, suitable health care for American citizens.
Well, when they start doing that, you give me a call and let me know when they do it.
Well, hey, you got to have insurance. We have to take care of our sick.
Right, but you know what?
No, we don't.
Forcing you to buy a product isn't taking
care of the United States government. That means
I'm not saying forcing anything. I'm saying
you're poor, then
people should want to have insurance.
Yeah,
you're right, and you know what? I think you help push that through education. I think you help push that by helping drive the costs down with the way inflation's going in this country.
Well, because we keep printing money.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But hey.
And you're sending money overseas, and you're bailing out banks, too big to fail. No.
See, in that's what ticks me off. That's what pushes me to that point. We bailing out banks. We taking care of, all these other things that's going on that's, abroad. Let's start taking care of, people that's here. But the thing is, people got to take care of people. Communities have to start rebuilding from within. So we can't depend on anyone. Well, you have to start just, hey, I want to help myself also.
Absolutely.
And
people have to get in that mindset.
And exactly, Dedric, what you're talking about is probably at the very core of why this broadcasting is happening right now, is because we are in the most, financially successful nation in the world. We are the, probably not for too much longer. We all know this. But financially, we all have it made. The poorest people in the third world countries don't live near as good as the poorest people here in America. But, a friend of mine told me a long time ago that the poorest in this truly suffer. They really are. There's no happiness. There is poor everywhere, all over the world. And there are poor people that are happy, and poor people are meant to suffer and get snuffed out.
But when this country allow slumlords to profit on the poor, they buy all this property for cheap. They keep the process going, let them live in feces and stuff like that, and still be able to collect money from the government through Section 8 programs, stuff like that.
I lived in East Lake, man. High five. I've seen it firsthand.
One of my buddies used to had a business that was going into those properties and cleaning them up, and never seen anything like it.
Right.
Had to back out of it. It was hey, I cannot stand to even see anyone live in these conditions and people profit off of it.
Yeah.
I'm so you telling me that I can keep this house in these conditions and the rent still get paid?
Right. But what do you do?
Hell, you go at the slumlords. You fine them for even allowing their properties to be even maintained or kept up in that manner.
And look, I know this is a national show.
And that's where it starts.
Let me get local for about
But we're talking about poor people and how the government allowed all this to be ran and played out. Who's profiting from it? It's not that we providing suitable housing and living for the poor.
This is how you
we allow people to profit off poor people.
That's all anything in this country is.
Yes, but when we're talking about living conditions,
right? Okay. Again, the profit of anything.
Water's not turned on in
Detroit. Look at what's going on in Detroit.
Look at Detroit now.
Right. I mean, it's just a group of people that have basically been left to die, and nobody cares about them. And the city's falling in.
Let me ask y'all a deeper question, and I've got to ask this. Is poor manufactured in this country?
I tell you what, hold on to that thought 1 second. We got another phone call coming in. Area code 619. Welcome to the Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, S.M. Gibson. What would you like to talk about tonight?
Hey, how's it going? It's Nick Burnaby. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Right. This is Nick. This is the founder of
Nick. What's up,
the
Nick?
Anti-Media.
Wow, Nick.
Hey, it's good to talk to you guys. I'm also sitting here with Alberto. We're just coming back from a protest here in San Diego about the school-to-prison pipeline that's going on. And it's a huge issue that's not being talked about.
So what's
Yeah, so we had a 16-year-old girl die in this juvenile facility over here, and the reason she got arrested was because she was out protesting for Trayvon Martin, and she got caught up in a what's that thing called, a curfew. It was a curfew sweep. So because she was 16, she got caught up in a curfew sweep, and she wound up in this juvenile facility, and then she died in there when she was 16. So I mean, this is a huge issue that needs to be talked about as well. But I kind of wanted to touch on the topic you guys were just talking about before we called in, as far as what can we do about these slumlords, and about the fact that the poor people are exploited through property and stuff like that. Well, one idea I wanted to just throw out there before we jump off the line here is community ownership of living facilities. You know, if we can pull together people that live in these conditions to pull together a kind of fund that is crowdfunded, and then they can start buying their own property, and maybe through like community financing, and that's a lot of the things they did back in the
like home ownership is so important. Like it need to be taught in communities. You know, like the importance of, like we need to teach the importance of home ownership, right? Because it tends to be like, hey, you own your property,
but
you
the
tend to take
financial
care.
system is keeping people from owning their own properties.
Well, we need to get the right
now.
owners in those communities and move the slumlords out and say, hey.
But, you know, it goes back to what Nick is saying here. And so many people don't realize that so much of this does start at the top. It does start with the currency. It does start with the Federal Reserve. All of that, it trickles down until we're in the situation that we're in now.
Is poor
and we need to go back.
manufactured? That was the question.
We
I
need to
just
go back
asked
to
a moment
individual
ago.
communities.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, can you answer that question?
What was that?
Is the pork manufactured in this country? Is pork manufactured in the country?
What about the manufacturing?
The question was, is poor, the concept of poor, a poor American, is that manufactured in this country?
Is it manufactured? Is poverty manufactured? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Exactly.
Definitely. I think it's you know, the whole system I think is regressive. Whether we want to talk about the housing system, the education system, the injustice system, all of it is very, very regressive, and it's all set up. So, like, let's just say, for instance, let's say I was drunk right now, which I'm not, and let's say I was drunk and I was driving, I got pulled over and I got caught, and you know, and I don't have very much money to go and hire a really good lawyer. I'm going to wind up doing some time, and I'm going to wind up paying a lot of money, and it probably has a good chance of ruining my life. However, if I'm a rich person, or if I'm a celebrity, or if I'm Justin Bieber, and I get caught doing a DUI, well, guess what? It's basically you hire the best lawyer that money can buy, and you get a little slap on the wrist. The entire thing is regressive, you know, and so the fact that poverty exists, it kind of perpetuates itself because the people, and back to what Dedric was saying, that people need to help people. So the fact is that the system is going to keep perpetuating this poverty until people come to the aid of other people. We need to start bailing each other out. We don't need the government to bail us out. We sure as hell don't need the government to bail out banks. We need to forget about all those old ideas, and the people need to come together, help each other, bail each other out.
Right. It's going to take individual communities, basically, and the support of our neighbors to wean ourselves off of the government. I think. Go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, it's all about this, like, kind of agorist ideas, and it's very much what the Black Panthers were pushing for, setting up schools, setting up housing, you know, doing things like that really push forward ideas, because another thing that we need to be wary of is government education. And obviously, education is very important. I think education is a human right. Education should be universal, but at the same time, we don't want the government to be in charge of it, because what are they going to do? Tell people to not like the government and tell people how bad the government's been doing? You guys remember those walkouts that took place in Colorado a few months ago with those students because their history books were being censored? This is a problem. It's an existential problem. If we're going to allow the government to be in charge of education, if we're going to allow them to be in charge of housing, well, what does the government do? They create divisiveness. They keep people down. They keep people fighting against each other because they don't want anybody fighting against them.
Exactly.
You know?
That's it. You nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
You know, as long as they have poor people at each other's throats, then they're not going to pay attention to the big problem.
Yes.
Because what they're scared of is when all the poor people come together and realize what's going on, is then they're going to focus their attention on the problem. And I think once they do that, they can handle the problem. The government is way more scared of the people than I think people realize. You know, everybody feels so small and the government's so big. But what people don't understand is that the government is so scared of you because once everyone collectivizes and gets over their BS problems and this and that, and you're back and forth, then you can accomplish anything that you want to. And I think that as long it's everything. It goes back to these police shootings. It goes back to who's going to be the next president. It's everything that's keep each other at each other's throats.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's time to change. I think everyone needs to be aware of what's going on. But hey, if you don't see it now, you'll never see it.
No,
I'm talking like it's in your face now.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you agree, Nick? It's in your face.
Yeah, man. It's time.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna jump offline. I just wanted to call in and let you guys know you're having a great show, and I've been enjoying all your shows. And hopefully,
appreciate it, man. Y'all be safe this evening.
Cool, awesome.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, got another caller on the line, area code 917. Thank you for calling in to the Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, SM Gibson. How you doing tonight? Looks like we dropped the call, but they are welcome to call back. But as far as getting back to like a community and getting things like winning ourselves off of the government, what are some things you think we can do? I tell you, I think it'd be good to have local communities where we can feed ourselves and not have to worry about the government.
Yeah, community garden.
Absolutely.
Community leaders in the community, like also some people.
There's technically leaders in the community now, and where's that?
Well, we're talking about real
the
leaders.
right leaders,
the right leaders. Okay, and that's where it starts. It starts in the houses in the community. It starts. Hey, hell, your kid running down the street shooting someone, you come back and you protect him. No, hey, he's wrong. You need to start standing up, saying, "Hey, it's a problem. We got to change it."
That's the way my parents did it. I'm the oldest of 14 children. There are 14 children in my family. I'm the oldest. And it was all about personal responsibility with every single thing that we did. Every single thing that we did. And not everybody's going to be from a big family, and everybody's got varying different degrees of, their American experience. But, it starts from the top and works its way down. Every child looks up to their parent, and, it starts with parenting, but it goes out from there because we all, not necessarily with kids or with, other people that are in lesser situations with us, we're all parents. We all look out and we see a piece of trash on the sidewalk, we pick it up and throw it in the trash. We all, go, to a convenience store and see a wallet sitting on a gas pump and go run over to the car that's fixing to leave off and hand them that wallet. That's where it starts from, the little small thing.
Personal responsibility.
But
exactly.
You have to say now, we have to know that there's a factor there that, hey, everyone is not all good people.
Absolutely.
You got that.
Okay. And you're asking, I think what Shane's hitting on is you're asking a lot of people because everybody's not good.
Yeah. So... Yeah. But hell, you know what you're getting yourself into. You know the people that you're dealing with, or you're like, having in your life on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
You know the negative factors of being involved with people like that, right? And what happens.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Come on, so let's all get it together.
You're absolutely right, but see, I think a lot of the problems that people experience is the people they don't know. That's where the fear comes in.
Yeah.
I know Mark Cuban's. They tried to get Mark Cuban in this comment that he made, but I think this is the fear that exists with people. The comment was, he's going to see like a white skinhead walking down the street or a black dude with the hoodie looking all gangster. He's going to cross the other side of the street because it's that fear.
Yeah.
You see that skinhead. You see that thug, and you're just like, oh no.
Well, we had that experience. Remember?
Yeah.
Walking up the street, and I told you, I'm like, hey, you see that guy out there?
Yeah.
He has a hood on his head. He was white.
Right. But it didn't matter, right?
It didn't matter, right?
He looked like he was thuggish.
My favorite...
And that's the fear. Right. But it's like that's the fear mentality that's been, like, I don't want to say bred in us, but it's definitely been instilled in us. We're told to fear certain things. And I think people are very reactionary to that. And, you know, I think that's where a lot of the hate and divisiveness comes from, is just fear. That's it. It's people fear certain things, so they react to certain things.
And could you agree that that's one of the main problems that's going on with our generation also? And this country is the fear that is inflicted on us.
Well, and you know, I
think it's better now than it's been in years.
It's a lot harder to work against your conditioning.
I do think
it really is. You've been conditioned to think and feel a certain way for so long, and then you have to actually physically remove yourself from that and actually be an individual and get a step away from that. Scott, I'm fixing to lay something on you right now, and you're going to laugh when I tell you the story. Remember when you first went to Seattle? Remember the fellow that came up to you?
Oh, Lord.
Remember the fellow, and you know what I'm talking about,
I know
too.
exactly what you're
because
talking
you've
about.
been conditioned in Alabama, in the southeast United States, particularly in this racist hotbed that we live in.
So-called.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was. I mean, we have a lot.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of history.
We have a lot of history, but at the same time, though, you stepped out of this situation, moved in the Pacific Northwest. Fella come up and asked you what? Now, you remember the story. You know what I'm talking about. Great story.
Basically, what the situation was is in Birmingham, really, a lot of the racist tensions don't exist the way people think they do. I think people really get along here, but
everybody knows their place. That's why.
I don't. Not from where I grew up. You know, I grew up in a very
because I wasn't originally from here. When we came down here, that's kind of.
I've never seen it that way. I personally never seen it that way. Yeah. To me, just I grew up with everybody, and I played. You know, it was what it was.
Yeah.
But okay, basically the story was this guy, he's staring me down, and it was a black gentleman, and he kept giving me the eye, and acted like he wanted to fight me. I don't know what the situation was going on in his brain, but I pointed out to a few people, and they just said, "Oh, you're crazy. This guy ain't messing with you." I was like, "No, I just get this vibe from him." So, this happens. This goes on for a few minutes, and man, he finally just walks up to me and bows up against me, and he looks at me. Again, this is coming from Birmingham, Alabama, and whatever. He's like, "Have you ever seen a black person before?" And I just looked at him because I'm just a sarcastic jerk, and I was like, "No, man, I don't know what you're talking about." But I was like ready to go blow it. I was ready to like punch this guy. And so he gave me like kind of this like he was going to do something to me look or whatever. And so my wife jumps in the middle of it and just goes, because she knew where I was going with this. And she jumps in and just goes, "He's from Birmingham, Alabama." I've never seen a man turn around and walk away so fast from a situation. Now, I don't know what he was scared of, but all his bravado went out the window. As soon as the words Birmingham, Alabama came out of her mouth.
So Birmingham carry a little weight around the country. That's what you're saying?
I guess. I mean...
actually, for reference, this is so not the story that I was referring to.
Fair enough.
I was talking about when you went to Seattle. And the fella came up to you, like, completely didn't know you or nothing. And this is hilarious, by the way. And comes up to you and asks you, because you're, like, expecting a fight, because he kind of rushed up on you, and asked you in, like, the most, like, Saxon voice available, "Excuse me, sir, what time is it?" And you were, like, almost, like, to the point where, like, "Oh, man, why's this guy getting all up in my grill?" And that's what I'm talking about. And what you're talking about backs that up. Yeah, it really happened. You've told
Fair enough. Fair enough. It happened.
It happens in Seattle.
This is what happens when we don't prepare for a show.
I'm always prepared. I'm always on top of things. When you start making up stories, there's no way to prepare for that.
But you guys go back to Seattle, so hey, I know you guys.
Yeah,
want to
look,
tell the true
we love
stories,
our
you know.
listeners in Seattle.
But at the same
we love our
time, though, I
listeners
mean,
everywhere.
and what we're talking about, though, what we're going back and forth with, though, is a lot of like manufactured from other resources, a lot of other crap that not only you have to deal with, but other people. When your wife told the guy, "Hey, Birmingham, Alabama," okay, enough said, I'm out of here. At the same time, you know, I don't know anybody from Birmingham, Alabama, you know, any white folks that are going to ride up on somebody and be like that about it. You know, Birmingham actually is a much more progressive city than
people would ever
realize.
give credit
Yeah.
for. Absolutely. Okay, we had this go on last week. We had the march. We had the Black Lives Matter march here.
Yeah. I saw that,
and
I was tuned into it. I seen a few things.
Yeah, and you know, here, you know, it was definitely it was a, I guess racial was predominantly a black crowd, but what was so special about it is the main guy that was talking over the bullhorn. You know, it was a black gentleman talking to a black crowd and was talking about, you know what, all lives matter, and he started talking about a story here in Opelika, Alabama, about how a black cop killed a white unarmed kid. And he was trying to make the point that this has got nothing to do with race, and it has to do with abuse of power. And we all, you know, and he was saying, you know, that doesn't mean we hate cops. We just want, when somebody does something wrong, they need to be held accountable for it. Period. And, you know, there's hate in people's heart, no matter their skin color, and it's the hate we have to fight against. You know, and where does hate come from? It comes from fear. And I think that's the reason there's so much abuse of power with cops now. Is I don't know if they're coming back from overseas. I don't know if they're training these cops. But there's so much fear in cops because I think they think the next person around the corner is going to shoot me, so I got to shoot first. Yeah. You know, and it could be riding up on a 12-year-old kid. You know, I absolutely think that the cop that shot Tamir Rice should go to jail. Now, do I think that he shot that kid because, I'm just going to go shoot a 12-year-old kid today? No, I think it was he was scared. There was fear, so he just reacted. That's stupid. That's not who we need patrolling the streets, and he should be punished for it. But I don't think he woke up and said, I'm going to shoot a 12-year-old kid today. He was reacting out of fear. He was scared. And that's where so many problems in this country come from. And people have to be responsible and not be scared and not have this fear. Again, that man should go to prison for life. That's just my opinion. But, you know, it's all based in fear.
Yeah.
And that's the argument with Michael Brown. Well, Darren Wilson was scared.
Well, you know, and I have to interject here for a minute because I've kind of been meditating on this for a while. You know, and I don't know if there's any dog lovers out there that are listening right now, but you love your dog. You know, we all have different breeds of dogs, but some of us have the big breeds of dogs, the Pits and the Bull Mastiffs and, you know, the German Shepherds, Doberman Pinschers, those big dogs. When you train your dog and go send your dog off to train to kill somebody, are you going to punish your dog when it kills somebody just like you trained it? And that's why we see so many police officers right now getting off the hook because they are trained to kill. They're trained to kill over in Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever corner of the earth that we send them to kill people. It's an institutional problem, right? And you know, it's almost like a soldier is sent to kill, and when they do a good job and kill a few people unflinchingly for the American flag, then they're rewarded with a job in law enforcement or, CIA, FBI, whatever the case may be in this day and age. So, it kind of gets to the point where police officers themselves, and I'm gonna say something pretty controversial right now, but police officers themselves need to re-examine what they've done with their life and the fact that they've gone on and killed people and felt okay and comfortable with it, and because we use these non-specific terms and these vanilla kind of descriptions about
it's not torture, it's enhanced interrogation.
Anal hydration.
Right.
Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is the new. That's the secret.
But you're right.
password
You're
for the
absolutely
show.
right. That goes back
Dick
to the
Cheney.
SAE reports. It was anal hydration. It wasn't that we're just shoving
Sticking a tube up
Right,
somebody's ass,
exactly.
and torturing them to the point where like, man, I really don't want this shit up my ass anymore.
Right.
Look, I know I'm using some harsh language, but I think it's time that we get kind of harsh about this shit.
Really? I agree with you because so many people are. I don't know if they're not accepting it. Like, what do you think it is? Like, are they just? Do they have blinders on? Do they not want to believe that this is going on? Are they just trying to stick their head
I
in
don't
the
want to believe
sand?
it's going on. Come
Yeah,
on, man.
like I don't want to believe it's going on, and I hate to see it going on. Like I hate it to like even see that
But
even
do you
happen
think
in
it's
Berkeley.
okay?
Oh,
Let
that's
me
not
ask you a
like
question.
Berkeley,
Let me
you know?
ask you a question real quick. Do you think it's healthier for you? You don't want to see it. I agree. You don't want to acknowledge this is going on. Do you think it's healthier for you to actually go through a little bit of a grieving process and accept that it's your country who you give tax dollars to is doing horrible things, or do you think it's healthier just to go, they're not doing it?
So about a year ago,
they're not doing it.
right before the World Cup, I saw these events taking place in Brazil, and I'm like, man, it's really getting closer and closer to home, right? With people standing up, people fighting against the government, things like that. Then it happened in Mexico. Then it's happening in America. I'm talking about people may not realize it yet, right? The tanks are not riding up and down the road yet.
Well, we've had MRAPs going up and down
but-
the road.
Well, we have a lot of video cameras on the scene now. Nobody wants to see a bunch of time.
Our government hasn't made the choice yet where they say, hey, forget the media. We don't care. We're going to inflict pain, force on innocent people. That hasn't happened yet.
Not to the level you're talking
Not
about.
to the level that I'm talking about. But in Berkeley, I can say, hey,
it got loud.
Berkeley is a tipping point. It really is, and if anybody that believes anything otherwise, you're in for a long, hard summer. You really are.
And like I told you guys last show, I'm like, hey, what's going to happen with the Asada case?
I don't think they're going to get her over here, personally. I think that she won't be brought back. I certainly hope she's not,
But we preach peace.
Absolutely, and she did kill somebody, but we don't know,
We don't know, like, how long has she been around? Like, what, 40 years?
Right.
Yeah.
And she was shot.
She was
The
shot
person
also.
she was with was killed.
Yeah.
So, there's more of an argument for self-defense there than there was ever for Darren Wilson. You know?
Yeah.
So, we don't know. We weren't there. But
we have to say, hey, things have changed.
Right.
Right? But it amazes me that all of this is occurring without any, like, mainstream leadership happening, like, from the community. Like, hey, the only celebrity that we really seen come out was who? Russell Simmons, which he's at every, protest, major protest. But no one else has stepped up and is still moving forward.
Yeah. Right.
So people are kicking Al Sharpton out.
Well,
and saying, hey, well, no,
I know.
You have different parties.
Talib Kweli, he showed up to Ferguson.
Kweli he's legit.
He is, and
but he's not. You got to think him and Mos Def. Those guys are two different individuals. They speak in the same language.
Right.
Like Mos Def just moved to South Africa.
Right.
Because he was tired of the injustice.
And I'll say this.
And he moved to New Orleans first because people say New Orleans is
it's loud, yeah.
But that is like the home of
Nala represent.
But
it was crazier there before Katrina.
Yeah, but it's New Orleans is a place, and a lot of people have good hearts and gracious hearts. Like, you hear a lot of negative things about New Orleans, but you ever experience
some of the greatest.
If you ever experience New Orleans,
yeah,
it's all love.
It is, yeah.
And New Orleans probably could teach you a few things.
Yes,
mad love,
right? And I feel I have several people that agree.
Yeah,
but and hey, people need to have that experience.
Absolutely,
right? Where hey. Diverse communities.
Yeah.
We all working together. We all sharing the love. I was just talking about that with my friend down in Argentina, how the locals are helping him, like everyone is working together because people are so suppressed. People are poor. The economy sucks. The government robs. So, but people that's good people that's all around the world recognize good people and work together and come together to like try to make change. And if we don't make change, if it don't work in the next 5 years, we keep pushing to the next 20.
Yeah. But listen, I think what you just said, I think you just hit the nail on the head. And it goes back to the story that I was talking about earlier. In the South, New Orleans, Birmingham, you get more diverse communities, you get more diverse cultures, and people are like, okay, cool, let's just live together and just be cool. Meanwhile, and here it's considered very conservative in the South, and but here's the thing, you go out to Seattle, okay, and they're very liberal, progressive, but you know what? I've never, ever once had any whatsoever, not even a hint of any racial anything in this city. But out there, where they're very liberal, but it's all rich white people.
It's kind of different, right? So here, most of the people are good. The leadership sucks.
Oh, it's horrible.
Which robs the people and mislead and rob them all day. And
yeah.
You have to say, Seattle may have a better leadership within than it must on the government standpoint, but the people may suck. We don't know. But the people here are great, and the government sucks. The leadership sucks. Yeah. Okay, and you can't agree.
People here are taking advantage of.
So the thing about the movements that's going on in Birmingham is that the people of Birmingham are making a change, not the leadership in Birmingham making a change.
No, the leadership,
but it is going on all across America. It's not just here, okay? So, but the people that makes all the noise in the communities never get recognized. They never get any help, because that just don't happen. Yeah. Right?
Well, here it is. The only noise you hear about, with certain things, is people with money, and usually those people with money have already been bought and paid for by somebody else in the government, and it's going to continue the endless cycle.
The people with money ain't got nothing to say.
Look at Obama. Look at Obama. You know what I'm saying? People are like, okay, it's just this kid. He didn't really come from much. Went to Occidental College, whatever. And then all of a sudden he's president of the United States. Well, what people fail to realize is that the first campaign he ran, there was more money behind that man than anyone who's ever run for president in the history of this country. Yeah. It's always the money. Yeah. You can say, well, it's this or it's that. No, it's always the money. When you see that much money, run.
Change.
Oh,
you remember that campaign?
Oh, hope and change. Hope and change. Hope and change. You know what?
Do you see any change or any progression?
I've seen some change, all right, but it's been regression. We've gone backwards. I think since September 11th, 2001, everything has just gone backwards. And I think the reason Obama...
We're talking about 2008.
I know what we're talking about, and I'm going there with it. I think the reason Obama... I don't know if the word is worse than Bush. Listen, go with me here. Yeah, I didn't say word. Here's the deal. Bush never promised us not to bomb people. Obama did. He said, I'm going to get us out of these wars. I'm going to get us out of Afghanistan. Didn't do it. I'm going to close Guantanamo. Didn't do it. I'm going to get rid of the Patriot Act. Re-signed it into law. Like, he said he was going to do all this great stuff, and then he turned around and stabbed the American people in the back.
And Bush didn't say anything. He just did it.
I hate to say it, and you're going to hate me when I do this. I'm going to give Obama a pass on this. Because Obama, when he said that and when he stated that back in 2008, he didn't know exactly what he was getting himself into.
He said in 2012, in 2012, we were going to be out of Afghanistan by 2014. We just re-signed to stay there for another 3 years.
And the puppet masters were wiggling their fingers up his ass to make his lips move
when Obama made
to
those
say
statements,
those things.
You've seen different parties walking down the road, but you've never seen this.
True.
You've never seen anyone walking down the road with the president of the United States hanging from a cross. Hanging. Like, hey, we going to lynch him.
They did that to Bush, and probably should have, but
believe me, if they did it to Bush, they was arrested. They was look. Listen, if it happened while Bush was in president, while he was like in office, they took care of it. Okay, and it probably was one or two because they was all afraid. But you had major parties come out saying we were hanging. Are you serious? In America?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. But see, we talk about terrorists and terrorism. Let's talk about American terrorism.
Zach De La Rocha at Coachella when Rage Against the Machine got back together openly called for Bush's assassination on stage. Yeah. So let's not pretend. It goes both ways. And the point is, I don't care who you're talking about. This is all that it is to me. Obama or Bush or Clinton or Bush 41 or Reagan or Jimmy whatever.
What you have to say about Kennedy?
Listen. Well, you know what? Kennedy, we only have a short period with Kennedy. And I think Kennedy was trying to lead us in the right direction from what little history we have of his presidency, which is not a lot.
He was taken out.
Well, you better believe it. He was taken out. So, listen. And take this into account. Everybody forgets this. Reagan, when he first got elected,
was bulletproof.
Listen, the thing about Reagan is Reagan was going to go against the Federal Reserve. Reagan said a lot of really good stuff early on. When he first got elected in 80. Listen, and guess what? What happened to Reagan? John Hinckley happened to Reagan.
You don't think
you better
for a
believe
second
it, and things changed.
That somebody didn't get in his ear and explain to him for half a second in some terms that he could understand why he got shot.
Right. So the thing is if you really are going to make that difference,
so we have to look.
That's the same reason. That's the same reason that Obama
existed.
Exactly.
It's the same reason that Obama went into his first term when he went in for his first exploratory,
So we're talking about hanging. You see what you're saying? Those people walk through the streets hanging signs. People were shooting presidents.
Yes.
They shot. They shot Reagan. They tried to shoot Gerald Ford 3 different times
and rushed the White House.
Yeah.
Okay.
Naked.
Well, that's get real. What are they going to do?
Naked.
Yeah, neat.
He made it indoors, guys.
But. Well, that's the Secret Service's problem, not mine. But look, ultimately we want peace. We don't want anybody to get hurt on any level. We want people to start thinking differently. That's the change that's needed in this country. It is education. And it's true education. And it's winning yourself off what you see on TV. And I think the reason people believe that things are more divisive today is because it's really not more divisive. The people are coming together. And so they're shoving it down your throat that there's a difference between this person and that person and this person and that person because they see everything that they worked so hard to do and divide. It's all falling apart. So they're shoving that down your throat. There's a difference between you. There's a difference between you. This black kid got shot. It was a white person. All white and black people should hate each other. That's absolutely insane because they see everything they built to divide people. It's falling apart. It's collapsing in front of them. So the reason you think it's so much worse is because they're shoving it down your throat. They're terrified of you. They're terrified of us. They're terrified of the people. The last thing they want are for people to be just marching on the White House. They don't want us marching on the Capitol. They don't want us huddled around the Washington Monument. Because as soon as that happens, and we go by the thousands and the hundreds of thousands
to the millions,
and to the millions, you know what? Let's put our message down there. Let's say this is what we're going to do. They have one of two options: either do it, or they're going to start slaughtering Americans, peaceful protesters, slaughtering them. That's their only two options. So, if that's what they want to do, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for listening to the Airtime Media Radio this evening. This is your host, S.M. Gibson, followed with, Dedric Young, and Shannon Madden said it with us tonight. Thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow night. Thank you so much.
Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.